My parents kicked me out for refusing to give $37,000 to my 4-year-old brother, who's never worked. Now I'm living alone with my savings intact. And I have them all blocked, while they lie to the whole neighborhood. I'm 19 years old. I study business administration at the state university. And 2 weeks ago, I left my parents' house with a backpack, my laptop, and my bank account intact with $37,000 that took me 4 years of my life to save. And no, I didn't give it to my brother Ryan, so he could get an apartment like my parents demanded. And honestly, even though part of me feels guilty, the other part is so angry that sometimes I feel like I'm going to explode. Let me start from the beginning, because this whole situation is insane and I need to get it off my chest. When I was 15, I got my first job at a coffee shop near school. You know, one of those places where they pay you minimum wage and you have to smile even though the customers are horrible. My parents thought it was cute. Like, oh, how responsible our son is. But the truth is, I started working because I wanted to have my own money, and because since I was a kid, I always had this idea of opening some kind of business of my own. I don't know exactly what yet, but something that's mine. Ryan, my older brother, is 24 years old and has never worked a full day in his life. I mean, maybe he had a couple of jobs that lasted like 2 weeks each. But basically my parents have always supported him completely, and he lives like that's the most normal thing in the world. During these 4 years, I worked everywhere. Seriously. At the coffee shop, then at a supermarket on weekends. Later, I got a better job at a tech company doing basic support. And last summer, I worked in construction because they paid well. Every cent I earned. Well, not every cent because obviously I spent on normal things, but most of it I put in a savings account I opened when I turned 18. My parents knew I was saving, but I never told them exactly how much, because I don't know. Something told me it was better to keep it private, and looking back, it was the best decision I could have made. Ryan was always the favorite. That's not news to anyone in the family. When we were kids and we broke something, I was the one who ended up punished, even though he was the one who did it. When they needed to buy him something expensive, like a new computer or a phone, there was the money. But when I asked for something, they told me to work and buy it myself. At first it bothered me a lot, honestly, but over time I kind of accepted it and focused on making my own life, on building something on my own without depending on them for anything. The problem started like 2 months ago. Ryan found an apartment he loved, one of those new places with a gym and pool in the building. Super nice, but super expensive too. Like $1,800 a month plus a 2-month deposit. He doesn't have a job, obviously, and my parents pay for everything, but apparently this apartment was too much even for them. Or maybe they realized they couldn't keep supporting him forever. Who knows? The thing is, Ryan needed like $7,000 for the deposit and initial expenses, and somehow, my parents decided that money had to come from my savings. One night, it was a Friday, I think, my parents asked me to sit down with them in the living room after dinner. My mom had that serious face she makes when she's going to ask me something important, and my dad was there with his arms crossed. They told me we needed to talk about Ryan and his situation, that he was already 24 years old and needed to become independent, that they had found the perfect apartment, but they needed my help. I was like, okay, what do you need? Thinking maybe they wanted to borrow my car to help him move or something. And then my mom dropped the bomb. We found out you've saved quite a bit of money, and we think it would be fair for you to help your brother with the apartment deposit. I went blank for a second. Literally couldn't process what they had just said. I asked them what exactly they meant, and my dad said straight up, "Your brother needs $7,000 for the deposit. We know you have those savings from all these years of working, and it's time for you to support your family." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Seriously. I told them that money was for my future, to start a business eventually, that it had taken me 4 years of hard work to save it. And my mom started with the speech about family helps each other, that Ryan is my brother, and when he's established, he'll surely help me too. I told her Ryan has never worked a day in his life. Why should I give him my money? And that's when my dad got really angry and said they weren't asking my permission. They were telling me what was going to happen. I told them no, that the money was mine and I wasn't going to give it to Ryan so he could rent an apartment he couldn't even afford. My dad turned red, completely furious, and said that as long as I lived under his roof, I was going to follow his rules, and that if I didn't help my brother, I could find another place to live. I thought he was exaggerating, like trying to scare me into giving in. So, I got up and went to my room. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. My mind wouldn't stop racing, thinking about the whole situation, about how unfair it all was, about how Ryan had never had to work for anything and now they wanted me to basically give him 4 years of my life. The following week was horrible. I mean, every day was the same thing. My mom would find me in the morning before I left for class and tell me things like, "Think about your brother. He really needs this. You're young, and you can save again." My dad barely talked to me, but when he did, it was to remind me that time was running out. Ryan didn't even talk to me directly, but I heard him complaining to my parents that I was selfish, that with all the money I had saved, I didn't want to help my own family. The pressure was constant. At breakfast, at dinner, every time I crossed paths with any of them in the house. I tried to explain my plans to them. I told them I wanted to use that money to start a business after 20 Decide 16s, graduating, that it was my future, my security. My mom said those were just dreams, and that family was more important than a business that didn't even exist yet. I asked her why Ryan couldn't work and save his own money, why I had to be the one to sacrifice everything. And my dad said Ryan had his own problems, that he couldn't find work, that the economy was tough. All excuses I wasn't buying, because the truth is, Ryan has never really looked for work in his life. One night, exactly a week after that first conversation, my parents called me to the living room again. This time, Ryan was there too, sitting on the couch with a smile like, "I already won this fight." My dad said this was my last chance, that either I transferred the money to Ryan's account before the weekend, or I had to pack my bags and find another place to live. My mom was crying, saying she couldn't believe I was being so selfish, that I was destroying the family over money. Ryan didn't say anything, but he looked super satisfied, like enjoying the show. I told them I wasn't going to give them the money, that what they were asking wasn't fair, and my dad stood up and said, "Then you have until Sunday to leave my house." My mom screamed that I was forcing him to make that decision, that it was all my fault. I went to my room, and that night I cried for the first time in years. Not from sadness exactly, but from pure frustration and rage, Because I realized my own parents were willing to kick me out of the house for not giving my money to my brother, who has never done anything on his own. Saturday morning, I started packing my things. I had a friend, Daniel, who had offered me his couch if I ever needed it, half joking but also serious, because he knew what my family situation was like. I called him and explained everything, and he told me to come over whenever I wanted, that it was no problem. I filled my backpack with clothes, grabbed my laptop, my important documents, and Sunday afternoon, I left. My parents were in the living room when I came down with my stuff. My mom was crying again, and my dad just looked at me and said, "I hope you're proud of yourself. You destroyed this family over money." I told him they were the ones kicking me out, not me leaving, and I got out of there before he could respond. Arriving at Daniel's apartment was weird, like liberating but also terrifying because I had never lived outside my parents' house. Daniel was incredible. He told me to stay as long as I needed, not to worry about paying rent for now. I settled into his living room, and that first night, I stayed awake until 4 inches the morning, thinking about everything that had happened, wondering if I had made the right decision, if maybe I should have given in and given them the money. 2 days later, I received a message from Ryan, the first one he'd sent me since all this started. It said something like, "Thanks to you, I lost the apartment. You're the worst brother in the world. I hope you're happy, ruining your family's life." I didn't respond, but I'm not going to lie, that message hurt, even though it came from him. Then my mom started sending me texts saying to please reconsider, that family was the most important thing, that we could fix this. I responded that if they wanted to fix something, they should accept that my money was mine and stop asking me to give it to Ryan, but she never responded to that. A week after staying at Daniel's, I started looking for more permanent solutions. First, I went to a lawyer, a free consultation I found online, to make sure my parents couldn't somehow access my bank account. The lawyer explained that, since I was already 19 and the account was only in my name, they couldn't do anything legally, which gave me so much peace of mind because I had this constant fear that they would find some way to take my money. I got a better job, one at a digital marketing company that paid almost double what I was earning before. I started like 3 weeks after leaving the house. With that money, I was able to look for my own place. I found a small studio near campus. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. For the first time in my life, I had my own space that nobody could take away from me. The rent was $850 a month plus utilities, expensive for a studio, but it was what was available in that area. Like 2 months after I left, the reconnection attempts started. My mom sent me a super long message saying she missed me, that the house felt empty without me, that please come back home and we could forget about the whole money thing. She didn't mention anything about admitting they were wrong or asking for forgiveness. She just wanted me to come back as if nothing had happened. My dad sent me a short text saying you should call your mother, she's very sad. Ryan didn't contact me directly, but my mom told me he also wanted to fix things, which I doubted a lot because Ryan has never admitted being wrong about anything in his life. I didn't respond could them for a while because, honestly, I didn't know what to say. Part of me missed having a normal family, missed not having this constant tension, but another part was so angry that I didn't even want to talk to them. Then, like 3 weeks ago, a family friend, Mrs. Martinez, who has known my parents for years, found me at work. You don't know how she knew where I worked, and told me she needed to tell me something important. We went for coffee and she told me that my parents were saying all over the neighborhood that I had abandoned them, that I had left the house on my own because I wanted to live my crazy college life, that I had turned my back on my family when they needed me most. It made me so angry to hear that. Seriously. Because they're literally lying and playing the victims when they were the ones who kicked me out for not giving them my money. Mrs. Martinez told me she knew there was more to the story, and that's why she wanted to warn me, to take care of my reputation because people in the neighborhood were starting to see me badly. I thanked her for letting me know and told her the whole truth. She was quiet for a moment and then said it didn't surprise her that she had always seen how they treated Ryan and me differently. And that same night, I made the decision to block my parents and Ryan's numbers. It wasn't easy. Like my finger was literally shaking when I hit the block button, but I knew I needed to do it for my mental health. Every message from them stressed me out, made me doubt myself, filled me with guilt even though I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. Since then, I've been focusing on my life, on my work, on my studies, on my plans for the future. I'm fine now, honestly. I have my apartment, my job pays well, I'm still saving although not as much as before because obviously I have more expenses living alone. My $37,000 is still intact in my account, growing little by little with interest, waiting for the moment when I'm ready to use it on something worthwhile. Sometimes I feel lonely. I'm not going to lie, especially on important days or when something good happens and I don't have family to share it with. But then I remember how they treated me, how they were willing to throw me out on the street for not financing Ryan's life, and it passes. A few days ago, a cousin wrote to me, one I hadn't talked to in months, asking how I was and saying he had heard some things. I told him my version of the story, and he said he thought it was incredible that my parents had done that he would never give his saved money to a brother who doesn't work. It was good to talk to someone in the family who understood me, even if it's just a distant cousin. I don't know what's going to happen in the future with my family. Maybe someday we can have a real conversation where they admit they were wrong, where they can see that it's not fair to ask a 9-year-old son to sacrifice 4 years of savings for a 4-year-old brother who doesn't want to work. But honestly, I'm not expecting it to happen. I've accepted that this is probably my reality now, and it's okay. I'd rather be alone with my future secured than be with them feeling used and worthless.